somebody told me a wonderful story, which you should know because you might, draw comfort from it. This guy was pretty experienced. He'd taken fairly high doses of mushrooms before, and he took a 6-gram dose on a Saturday evening in his apartment in L.A. And this heart thing began to develop that he identified as a fibrillation or something. So he tried to hold it back and not notice, and it kept getting stronger and stronger. It never lets you do that, by the way, the not noticing. It's a paradox. You didn't take this to not notice. So eventually he becomes thoroughly alarmed, and he tries to call a couple of his friends. Well, it's Saturday night. Nobody's home. So then just this tremendous sense of abandonment settles over this guy. His friends aren't there when he needs them. He's going to die here in his apartment and be found days later, so forth and so on. And he gets this ball rolling, see? So finally he despairs. He's a psychotherapist, an MD, blah, blah, everything. He despairs. He calls 911. So they come, they get him, they rush him to the hospital, they put him in a ward, by the time all this has happened, and he's gotten all this attention, and probably a little seconal, he's feeling pretty good about it all. So then he says to the guy on duty, he says, I feel like I have to tell you, I took psilocybin mushrooms. Do you think that brought this on? And the guy said, no, you had an anxiety attack. We get people with this all the time who don't know anything about psychedelic drugs. So, it isn't the drug you have to worry about, it's yourself. You have to discipline your hind brain. You have to be able to say, listen, shut up! We're going to come through this. Just shut up about it. Because it's saying, but don't you think we should call somebody? We shouldn't treat it with such levity because it is a serious issue. I mean, I've been in many circumstances where vital signs seem to have fallen so low in my own perception that I just was saying to myself, keep breathing, keep looking, keep breathing, keep looking. And I felt, that I was in a submarine 5.5 miles down. Easy does it through here. Breath, attention, breath, attention. Because you have the feeling that if you don't keep your attention on your breath, you will simply stop breathing. Well, now, it's interesting. People who don't worry much about psychedelics, you tell them a story like that, and they say, well, isn't that the bit that you take these drugs and you think you're dying and then you get straight and then you don't die and then you're really happy? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? I thought that was what it was about. Well, in fact, if you go back into the literature, in the 1960s, the Tibetan Book of the Dead crowd was saying, you will be flung from hell to paradise and back again on about a 40-minute schedule for several hours. And they prepared themselves for these bad trip situations by anticipating it. And I don't really think there's that much to it. I think your mind is very fragile in that state. And, a bad thought quickly becomes a cascade. And you have to know how to stop these cascades. A very practical technique that I use is I take a hit of cannabis. Thinking you're going to die, at least for me, is not all that rare. I mean, if somebody invites me to go sailing with them on the bay on a Sunday afternoon, at least twice in the afternoon, I will sign off completely and just assume that's it, Maybe I'm a little paranoid, or maybe I have crazy friends.